but you don't even try. Still I'm better with than without you. Oh, I'm on it, I want it, but why do you seem to call it your eyes? I can't tell if you're here or you're out there. Do you wanna be out there? You don't need to be Prince Charming to me. I just need this to be real. I don't need no fairy tale. You don't need a killer dragon for me. Ooh, I don't need no fairy tale. Still, every time, whatever it is, I keep on trying. 'Cause it ain't hard to forgive when you know what it's like. That's why I'm better with than without you. Oh, I'm on it, I want it, but why do you seem to call it your eyes? I can't tell if you're here or you're out there. Do you wanna be out there? You don't need to be Prince Charming to me. I just need this to be real. I don't need no fairy tale. You don't need a killer dragon for me. Ooh, I don't need no fairy tale. There's not a single day that passes without you on my mind. Not even 1 minute can end up before you come around. I yearn for the days when I see your face here before me. I long for the times you held me in your arms. Whoa. How I wish that you were here to give me everything I want. But I know that life's unfair and we can't always have it all. Whoa, whoa, I wish that you were here. Whoa, whoa, I wish that you were here.
enough talk about formations and tactics. It's time to grab this game by the sanitised balls.
Hi, I'm Jamie Curtin, and you're watching NR1Live, Match Day 2, Project Restart.
Well, we might be the same age, but I think some have aged a little bit better than others there, me and Jamie. Not talking about Daniel Farke, of course. Always looked slick, unfazed. Although he did add a bit of a few choice words, I guess, to say during the week about the performance and the criticism of his tactics. Rob, thanks for joining me again, my lockdown buddy. Look, the first thing we must talk about straight away is the ins and outs of this team tonight. If people haven't heard, there's no Timo Pukki, no Todd Cantwell, no Emi Buendia and no Tom Tribal. In comes Hernandez, Rupp, Duda and Teti. Big calls, some players there you would think the creative ones they've been influential this season who've clearly been left out from that performance essentially. Now we've tried to kind of think how they're going to play. We think they might go back to a 4-2-3-1 with the system they're playing, but we're not quite sure, so surely that keeps Everton guessing as well a little bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it is a big call from the manager, leaving your so-called top striker out. And like I say, is it a 4-2-3-1? I think it might even be a 4-3-3. You know what I mean? Like I say, just put Teti in front of the back two, the central defenders. Use Dermich as the main focal point. Yeah. Might be going a bit long, changing the game, going a bit longer today into that striker and just work around him. So
we can sit here and we kind of think that's maybe how it's going to be set up today, with Duda obviously getting forward to support McLean, Hernandez and Drmic, with Teti and Rupp probably sitting a little bit deeper. No change in the back four, where actually there was a lot of criticism of the back four at the weekend because it was difficult in terms of to blame anyone. But as you said on Friday night when it was. You've got to defend your goal like a castle, and it didn't happen, did it?
No, absolutely. And I ain't going to sit here and I ain't going to blame any one of those back four because I was one myself. You know what I mean? Defensively, it's a team game. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? There's individuals makes mistakes. You know what I mean? But sometimes, like you say, you have to be strong, but that's strong to a man, not just the back four. That is across the team, basically. And I mean, you can be strong in your offensive third rather than your defensive. If you lose it easily in the offensive third, then obviously the team might be out of shape. Puts massive pressure on the back four. But as a team, collectively, on Friday, I felt they were a bit weak. Today, they've got to change that.
What were they lacking? I mean, the changes they've made. I mean, they brought Teti in, who's probably going to be a little more physical and defensive in terms of that. But I mean, what do they need? What do they need essentially to be able to draw something out of this game? Because this is a must-win, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. This game has got to have 3 points for Norwich. They brought Hernandez in, who will give them pace. You know what I mean? And that was something that was missing on Friday. Duda and Rep, I don't know too much about them, but obviously Tete's one there. He's been a solid player over the years for Norwich and whatever like, and he knows what's needed. And I think he's that one there that hopefully will give him that fighting spirit. And you just need someone in there to do that, because I think if one does it, then three will do it, then five will do it, and then all of a sudden the team do it. You know what I mean? They just need a spark and whatever like that. Seemed to be missing after the first 10 minutes on Friday.
Yeah, and it's down to the manager to get the best out of his players, of course. And we can hear from Daniel Farke's press conference earlier, I think it was yesterday.
I'm working so long and in this business that I exactly know how it works. Yeah, when we were in our 4-2-3-1 or 4-1-4-1 setup. Yeah, for example, last game we played against away at Sheffield United, we were unbelievably solid in our defending, but we lost this game because of a goal in the first half. 1-0, then everyone after such games said, it would be great to play with two strikers up front. And we played, for example, just the second half with two strikers up front. We were pretty close to equalize the game. And everyone said, no, we have to attack the game more. We have to be more brave and bring more offensive players on the pitch. and then the next game, it's more or less you are also forced to bring all the offensive players on the pitch because more or less all the other key players in the defense are injured. You go for it. You have a home game. You want to attack the game. You want to win the game, and you lose this game because your individual defensive behavior was not great enough. Then everyone says, "Oh, you can't play with two up front." So this is quite a normal reaction.
Well, we can talk tactically all night about how they should have done and shouldn't have done things on Wednesday night, but you look at the personnel Norwich have got in their team. A manager, once that crosses on, it's down to those players to be able to do that. Now, looking at Norwich's team at the moment, we go back to, and I think we've got a little clip here of someone scoring a goal against Everton, as it happens, at Carrow Road many years ago. A big Rob Newman again up there with a header, wearing the number, is it number 8 you got there, or number 9 you got in the back there?
I think, yeah.
But the point is, you played in various different positions for Norwich. You played as a centre forward, you played centre midfield, you played central defence, you even played in goal for a spell. I played in 7 different positions for Norwich. Are players not quite as adaptable as they used to be? And that's not their fault. It's because the squads are bigger. They've got people that can come in and rotate in certain positions. But we all know Norwich's best system seems to be a 4-2-3-1. Yeah. Can they play in any of the positions? Can a Buendia go and play as a right winger? Can a Timu Pukki go and drop into midfield? Can a Tim Closer go and play centre forward? I know the game's changed, but it doesn't seem as if the players are quite as adaptable as they used to be.
They can do it, Darren. But in possession, I can go and stand in the right wing, you can go and stand in the right back position. We can do it, and we can be disciplined. And disciplined is the word that was missing on Friday. I think there was discipline that wasn't there out of possession. Players today, are a different breed. Basically, you've got your creative players, you've got your match winners that you need to be having in the offensive third, you've got your defensive players. You've got to know and have a good knowledge of the game. Now, what you've just asked me there, I think they can go and play there, but do they know the knowledge of the position? Probably not. They know the knowledge of the main position that they play in, but anywhere else they don't know the knowledge of it. Where do I go? Where do I have to be? Where do I have to double up with my fullback? Where can I drop back in? I see a fullback out that's gone forward. I need to go and there's a gap there that's could make us vulnerable.
But would that be from coaching right down from they were kids? When we were kids, I played in various different positions to learn that. I went and played in a right back position sometimes, so I knew how I could get the best out of playing as a left midfielder. Yeah. So perhaps they don't do that as much now. They're kind of probably pigeonholed a little bit when they're younger. Like they don't have the experience to say, I can play in a few positions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My mantle, jack of all trades, master of none. They got me in the team early in my career, but I could go and play okay in any position. Yeah. But like I say, this is a situation now where you've got a squad of 25 players. Yeah. You've probably got 4 fullbacks, 4 centre halves, 4 strikers. So you've got strikers. So one's gone, you put one in there.
But as a manager, that must be quite restrictive because if you've got players that are adaptable, you can switch things up during a game. You can move systems around. If generally, if people come to Carrow Road, they know Norwich play a 4-2-3-1. Yeah. If they know they're going to defend against that and Norwich don't have any success, there seems to be a little bit of a delay before anything's changed or can we do something different?
It's a plan B or a plan C. You've got to have that up your locker and whatever. But like I say, Friday was. I don't think that was nothing to do with the system. We were all really excited about the system. He's playing 2 up front, 4-4-2, and he's having a go. The goals were nothing to do about the system. The goal was down to just basic individual lack of desire to stop the opponent. You know what I mean? But like I say, I like you said, I do think players do not want to go and play out of their so-called best position today because it sort of distracts from what they're good at. Yeah. But I think some good players have to do that sometimes and they have to show. The top forwards, sometimes they're back chasing in the right back position. They've got that desire to go. They see where the team might be lacking in, they can see it from the front. I need to go. It might be a 50, 60 yard sprint, not a jog, a sprint to get back in there and whatever. It's having that desire, a team ethic. And
in the players' defence, in terms of desire, it is so. It's very difficult to kind of express to people what it's like to be in a stadium with no one in it as a player. And I watched games at home before the game on Friday. Yeah. It's very different being here. Even watching it here is strange to watching it at home. So as a player, I remember in warm-ups, I'd always come out last because I wanted the crowd to be in the stadium, more people in here, more vibrant. It changes everything. People get on the refs' back, they get on each other's back, it fires people up. So in their defence, it's very, very difficult to do that. But that's a mental thing, isn't it? They've got to learn to find that somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, the crowd here is like the 12th man. He's like the 12th man without a shadow of doubt. And when the teams come out for the pre-match warm-up, well, not the warm-up, when they walk up just before the start, the crowd's on them. And this is a great stadium, the crowd is on them and whatever. And it was missing. It was missing on Friday. But again, they came out 10 minutes, Darren, and they did really, really well. What I noticed on Friday was the fact when they conceded a goal, and every time they concede a goal at Carrow Road, you got 27,000 people giving them a lift. It gives them that energy and whatever. Like that was missing. I'm thinking, and I think that really, you could see the body language in the players. We need something to lift us. And they normally got 27,000 people, but they never had that Friday.
But does that then accentuate the players' frailties, the fact that they can't do that themselves, and that's why they're playing at the level they're at, and that's where they find themselves in the table?
Yeah, like I say, in this, I've watched the Bundesliga, the Serie A's on La Liga. Good players, good teams will win the majority of the games because good players and good teams know what to do. They know how to keep the ball. Whether there's a crowd watching, they don't play for the crowd. They are good players. You know what I mean? There's no crowd pleasers in there. They are crowd pleasers because they're naturally good and they know what's required. And when you look at your Chelseas, your Man Cities and your Liverpools and whatever, they are good players, and I think they will win the majority of these games. Yeah. And that's why it was disappointing Friday, because that was a game Norwich could have won easily. And
as we said, it's so important to have fans here in the stadium. And a big fan in the literal sense is Jake Watson, who's going to join us now. I think he's 6'5", so he's certainly got a presence when he's here at Carrow Road. Can you hear us, Jake?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Wow, that is a lockdown beard. That is impressive, mate. That's the best one I've seen as yet, I think. It's better than Ramos's.
Yeah, I won't lie. When Boris announced yesterday, Darren, that the barbers are back open, I celebrated that like a last-minute winner, mate.
But to be fair, during your modelling days, you used to sport a bit of a beard, didn't you? Anyway, enough of that. Look, Norwich City at the moment, you've watched plenty of them over the years, and in current times. What are you making of the way they performed on Wednesday night? Friday night. Keep forgetting what day it is.
To know what, it was pretty much same old, wasn't it, in terms of the season itself. So some nice football being played, the defensive lapses, and just too easy to score against ultimately. So I'm not surprised, to say the least, to see lots of changes tonight from Daniel, because it's pretty much to the point now, isn't it? It's must win.
Yeah, and one man who's missing is Timo Pukki, who you're. We must just touch on it. You said on camera that you were going to get a tattoo of Timo Pukki on your backside if he scored 11 goals this season, or 10 goals this season. He's obviously done that. Is the tattoo arrived as yet?
It's not arrived. Come on, Darren. You promised me. You said if I came on, you wouldn't tell me. You wouldn't ask me about it.
I duped you into it, Jake.
Yeah, no. Look, as said, I'm not going to back out of it. Come the end of the season, when Boris reopens the tattoo parlours, I will get it. And if you really want to come along, mate, you can.
Fantastic. I'll be doing it for you. Jake, you're going to actually let us film you during the game to get your reactions of how Norwich play, and we're going to catch up with you at half-time.
All right, mate.
Enjoy the game, mate. See you later. Now, it is a must-win game. We've talked about that already, haven't we? It's a position now where they come into this, and we're looking around at the minute. I mean, Everton have had a decent result against Liverpool at the weekend and played pretty well, so it could be an even tougher task for Norwich. But earlier on this season, this happened.
Playing's done well, the header down to Pukki. Pukki dealing with two Everton defenders here, and he's got the pass to Campbell, who races into the area and scores! Norwich City have an away Premier League goal for the first time since the opening night of the season. They're back on Merseyside, they're back among the goals, and Todd Cantwell tucks it away, and that feels so good for the supporters on the far side of the ground, who finally have something to celebrate. Everton 0, Norwich 1. City protecting a 1-0 lead, but now here is Buendia, 25 yards from goal. Buendia into the penalty area he goes. It's broken for Dennis Shrubeni. Surely he was dragged back there. Doesn't matter. Shrubeni scored. Dennis Shrubeni, the Norwich City substitute, has bundled in the goal that might win their first away win of the season. Norwich City couldn't score away from home before today. They've now got two on Merseyside. It was untidy, it was scrappy, but it doesn't matter one bit. Shrubeni has a goal, and it's Everton 0, Norwich 2 in stoppage time.
And watching that, Rob, does the selection today make things seem even a little bit stranger? Because sometimes you have teams you play well against, you score against, and Todd Cantwell, we can see here, scored on that day, linking up with Timo Pukki to score the goal as well. Emi Buendia was there to set up Shrubeni's goal as well. All three of them not in the side today. I mean, can he count himself a little unlucky?
Yeah, I think they can. They need someone like a Todd Cantwell or a Buendia in the side, I believe, to be that creative player in that number 10 area and whatever. And you look at there, the two guys that assisted and one that scored are not in the team now. So even Everton might be looking at that and saying, well, they played well against us. It's sort of like a boost for Everton today that the so-called like top creative players on the pitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it goes back to the beginning again, how they're going to play, we'll have to wait and see. You know what I mean? But like you say, Everton will look at that team now and say, well, the 3 players that did it against us earlier in the season are not on the pitch now. So that might give them a boost as well.
Yeah, and every team needs a goal scorer. And we've got on the line now an absolute goal machine at whatever level it is. A fellow West Countryman.
Yeah.
Jamie Curtin is with us. Jamie, how are you doing?
Down haircut. That's not a haircut, is it?
Right. Yeah, what's happening there? That is definitely a haircut. Look, Rob's even managed to get his haircut. Jamie Curtin, what's that all about?
Well, I've gone for a Rob Newman 90s trim, I think. I've sort of lost it.
Looking good, mate. Look, looking at Norwich's performance on Wednesday night.
Friday
night. On Friday night against Southampton. It was a poor one, wasn't it? I mean, where do they turn things around? It's important, you know about scoring goals, Jamie, but you've got to have the service as well. And there wasn't much for Timo Pukki to feed off, or Drimmitch. You know, they took a lot of the flack, to be fair, on Friday night. And was that a bit unjust for them as well?
I think it's difficult, yeah. There's certain strikers that can create on their own, and there's other strikers that need support and supply lines. So I think as a frontman, if you don't touch the ball a lot and you don't have the chances, it's very hard to then, you know, criticise them. I think when they're missing chances and, you know, getting opportunities and stuff, then you can. But I think if you're playing a game and you hardly touch the ball and, you know, you don't see a sight on goal, then I think it's difficult to sort of put the blame on them, to be honest.
Yeah, and we were talking a little earlier, Jamie, about how difficult it is without the fans in the stadium in terms of a massive arena like this where there should be 27,000 fans here. Now, you've played at all the levels there are in football, yet you still manage to get yourself up for a football match, whether it's playing in front of 5 people or 50,000 people. So how do you manage to do that, even though you're playing at a lower level now and there's not so many people there? How can these players learn to kind of lift themselves in front of an empty stadium?
I think for me, dropping down, it was just a case of another football match. I treated it the same as if it was playing for Norwich. And I think that was my mindset, that wherever the surroundings I was playing, I had a job to do. I loved playing football, wanted to score goals, so I treated it the same. So that was my sort of motivation, I suppose. But I think since what's happened, the lockdown and now playing behind closed doors, I always feared for the teams at the bottom, because I think they're going to be the ones that need the crowd the most. So I think bottom 6 sides, I think they're going to be the ones where they're going to struggle, because, you know, you need that little, whether you make a tackle or you shut someone down and the crowd sort of get behind you and push you on. I think the bottom clubs need that more than you watch Man City. I think that they can play behind closed doors all day and still play the same. And I think the other sides need a bit of an atmosphere. And I think that's probably where now, if you look, I don't see the bottom changing that much, because I think they're all going to struggle to get the momentum and get that atmosphere going amongst themselves.
Jamie, how you doing, pal? You okay?
I'm good, mate. You okay?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Just make your take on Pukki not being in the team. Now, obviously, Pukki's been talked about over the last however long he's been here as the goal scorer, as the saviour and whatever. I mean, as a striker yourself, you know what I mean? And obviously, you've always got belief that you can score and whatever. Like, what would this do for him not being in the team tonight? You know what I mean? For the next 7 games, basically. Is that sort of like saying a statement from the manager that I don't trust you, I don't believe you can score the goals now? Or is it just a case of, well, listen, hey, they've got a massive game on Saturday in the FA Cup. Is there a case, pull them aside, say, listen, have tonight off and get yourself shooting ready for Saturday? How do you think he'd be feeling?
I think if he's not, you'd like to think he'd been spoken to. And I think if you've looked at the games, a lot of them have changed the front boys, because obviously you want them to be sharp and stuff. So you'd like to think that it's because he's played, obviously the other day, they've got games coming thick and fast. So he's resting him, I suppose, to get him fresh for the next game. If he hasn't, and you're on a bad run of form, and you then come out of the team, then yeah, it does, you know, dent your confidence, because you sort of then start to think, well, he doesn't trust me. You know, he doesn't feel I can do a job. But as a frontman, you know, especially myself, no matter what run I was on and how things were going, every game I was able to play, and I always believed I'd score. So I think when you're in a position like Norwich and you need to win, you know, bottom line, you have to win. You know, you'd like to think you'd get the best players on the pitch, whether they're, you know, not fit or they're getting up to match speed. I'd like to think you'd put them on there and then bring them off later on. But he's obviously, I think, gone the other way and maybe rested a few of the more sort of, you know, the potent attack sort of force they've got, rested them, and hopefully the boys that come in can do a job and maybe they'll be fresh for, you know, a week's time or something.
Yeah, well, Jamie, I can't remember you having too many droughts, mate. We're going to see you at half time. We'll catch up with you then. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, certainly. See you later, guys.
Top man, pal. Bye.
So you go from one end of the pitch to the other. You know, we've talked about obviously Pukki being left out today, Drimich is leading the line, which it seems it's going to be. Has been talk of the defence, but the 4 players who played in defence on Friday night were essentially Norwich's back 4.
Yeah.
You know, the people that have played in those positions all the time. There's not had to kind of shoehorn anybody in. Okay, Close has been out for quite a while, and it's all a bit new to everybody in terms of coming back from this. But they've missed something, haven't they? And Zimmerman was a big player for him this season.
Yeah.
In terms of leadership, not just so much of his ability, but in terms of his leadership on the pitch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Zimmerman was he's the main guy that needs to be in with those 3 young defenders. I mean, Godfrey, Aarons and Lewis have done fantastically well, but they need an elder statesman, and it looks like Zimmerman's the one that's there, with, not only with his performance, but his organisational skills as well. Like, you know what I mean? He's good enough to help the other guys as well as like look after himself as well. Where Tim, I mean, he hasn't played a lot of games, and maybe sort of like concentrate on himself. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to get up to speed and whatever, like, and he hasn't got that ability to look after the younger ones and whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's tough for him. It is tough for him because they're 3 young kids playing in the Premier League for the first time in their careers and whatever, like, and I think they've done fantastically well. And I guarantee, like, all 3 of them will go on to have a really good career. But this is a serious baptism of fire they're having this year, and they're just missing that leader in the back line with them, just to give them some support. And I think Zimmerman's been massive miss for him.
But in a weird way, though, this could bring the best out of them. We've got a match up here with Ben Godfrey and I think Calvert-Lewin, who you know, you can see. Ben Godfrey's a leader. We know that. We see from his past and the teams he's played in before when he's been out on loan. But it's a lot on his shoulders for such a young lad. But you can see in terms of his stats how good he is. But he's a young kid still, isn't he? Essentially, you know, he needs a lot of time to feel to bed in, and he needs probably more vital than anybody else on the pitch. If you're playing central defence, you need an experienced player alongside you. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you need to get it right. One mistake from centre halves, and it's a goal. In the Premier League, it's a goal. Yeah. Lower down you go, maybe not. You know what I mean? But in this environment, it's a goal. And today will be good because Calvert-Lewin's a similar age. They probably were known someone from the under-21s, so they know about each other. So I'm expecting. Will that make him more comfortable? Yeah, no. He's played against him. He probably knows him, and they've had a chat, and they kind of mates. I don't know. You know, once he will know what he's about. He will know what Calvert-Lewin's about when he's been training with him in England and playing in the same team as him. He will know his strengths. He will know his weaknesses. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to that battle today because that's 2 good young players with the potential to go to the very top. Yeah. And someone who has got a little bit of experience, and we do look to for a bit of leadership on the pitch, is Kenny McLean. He's had that role for Norwich at the moment. Yeah. He seems to bring that to the side. You can see him on the pitch ordering people about. You know, he's playing probably an unfamiliar role today, it seems, perhaps out on that left-hand side. But players like him are vital, aren't they? You have to have, probably more so nowadays, you need 2 or 3 of them in your side when you've got such a young team. Yeah, no, absolutely. The elder statesmen need to be sort of like, they need to stand up and be counted nowadays. And I was sort of like looking at Kenny on Friday night, and he was hurting. When them goals were going in, I mean, he was hurting. And sometimes you're in the team and you're trying your best, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. You know what I mean? Because it's happening behind you and whatever, like, and it's through frailties or whatever, or on decisions. He was hurting, and he was pointing, and I would imagine he's quite vocal in the dressing room as well. So, I mean, I don't know what was said in the dressing room, but I think he's the one that can be vocal and say, listen, we ain't out of this yet. That's what they've got to realise. Yeah. They're not out of this. They can still get these points. The 3 teams above them all lost over the weekend. You know what I mean? Which is even worse, like the fact they lost on Friday. They're still in this. If they can get a win tonight, they could arguably 2-3 points behind the ones above them, and then it's game on then. Yeah, and always the last line of defence is the goalkeeper, and we've got a match up here of Tim Krul and Jordan Pickford. Not too dissimilar, really. No. You know, it's difficult because Tim Krul is, you know, you can see about obviously the saves made. Perhaps that's because Tim Krul has not got such a good defence in front of him. He's having to make more saves, you know, rather than Jordan Pickford, who's probably got a bit more of a solid defence. So, you know, but he's been vitally important for Norwich, hasn't he? But is it difficult from a goalkeeper to have that influence on a pitch because you are that far back? To be vocal, you can only get to your back 4, really,
absolutely.
Can't you?
And like I say, I mean, the goalkeeper's, it's a nightmare position, to be fair. Like, you know what I mean? And
but they're normally used to getting the crowd in their ear, aren't they? Actually, at the minute, they must be loving it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, he's an organiser. He's an experienced player, so he will have them. And like you say, what we're saying about a centre half with a back 3, but he's still got to organise. He can still be vocal, but again, mate, you know what it's like. You can shout and shout and shout and shout, but if the players don't want to do it and players don't want to put an extra yard in to get in the position where he wants them to be, you know what I mean, you're going to have holes and spaces in your defence and whatever. But he's important, and like you say, you look at those matchups, they ain't too dissimilar, and one of them is the England number one. Yeah. And like you say, the more saves he's had is because Norwich are at the bottom.
Yeah, and someone we always value their opinion during their commentaries is Chris Gorham. We heard from him a little earlier. Okay, I'm joined by Chris Gorham from BBC Radio North. And Chris, I'm going to be back on air with you again today. Probably a little less socially distanced than we were last week.
We took it to extremes, didn't we? I was over the far side of the ground in the press box and you were on the gantry. I could wave to you, but it's not the same as even being within 2 metres of you. So, yeah, we'll get the referee spray out and hopefully 2 metres today will be fine.
Yeah, we had technical issues. I was on my mobile phone. You were completely opposite side of the stadium. But we made it work, didn't we?
We did. It sort of summed up the way it went on Friday, didn't it? From on the pitch, off the pitch, nothing quite went right. So let's treat that as a pre-season friendly and hope that the real stuff starts here tonight, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, the games come thick and fast, as they do. And you know, Norwich have got injuries at the moment. And there's been a lot of kind of dissection of the way they played during the week. I mean, what are your kind of thoughts on it? Because I think everybody's come out with the same feeling. It just all felt a bit flat. We know that there's no crowd and it's difficult for them, but it felt as if the players weren't up to speed at all.
Yeah, it was a strange atmosphere. I think that there were times where I really missed the crowd. You know, Danny Ings hitting the bar in the first half, even the first Southampton goal. We're used to the crowd reacting to that when Norwich are up against it. You know, a big on-the-ball City going up, and I think there was just nothing to lift the players when things started to go against them. Having said that, they didn't help their cause, did they? I don't really want to talk too much about the formation they played because I think it was more down to the performance. They made so many basic mistakes, not keeping the ball. It was really frustrating. But having said that, the other results have gone in such a way that if they win this one tonight, they could be just 3 points from safety, and it could be, you know, game on again.
Yeah. And we keep saying this: if they win this one tonight, we've said it a few times, but we're still in the hunt essentially. But this is a must-win game today, isn't it? They have to win tonight to give themselves at least a little bit of a squeak to stay up.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they came back after the enforced break with very little margin for error. When you hear a head coach saying we've got to win 5 out of 9 games and they've only won 5 all season, that shows you how difficult it is. It's now 5 out of 8 games, so it's getting more and more difficult. But Norwich City, nothing is ever straightforward, is it? Things happen here at Carrow Road, even without the crowd, hopefully. So this would be a good way to get things going tonight.
Yeah. And they had a great result against Everton early on in the season as well, win 2-0 away from home. So a team they know a little bit about, and actually a team they have put one over already this season.
Yeah, the only away win they've had at Goodison this season. It was one of those afternoons or one of those evenings where you thought, right, we're getting to grips with the Premier League, but they've never quite kicked on, have they, Norwich City? And they've left themselves with plenty to do. It's a different Everton now. They didn't have Carlo Ancelotti back then, so I expect them to be a tougher nut to crack. But how much did the Merseyside derby take out of them? You know, they've had two fewer days to recover from that the Norwich had. So maybe on a hot day like this, maybe that will make a difference. It's like a World Cup, isn't it? We're worried about the players in the heat.
Fantastic. Well, love Chris, ever the optimist. So for another decent win today.
We try.
I'm still looking in quite good shape for 45, don't I?
You do.
Look, and here's the team Norwich City can be facing tonight. The Everton side. Oh, we have got it. Here he comes. It's coming now. There we go. Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, obviously the big players up front, aren't they? You know, they're the threats. They're going to test our central defence today. They would have seen the game from Friday. Again, quite a fairly decent, experienced side. Yeah. But I mean, we've got 7 subs on there, but they've only named 8. So you know, they believe that they've got enough already. What they've got to be able to beat Norwich.
Yeah, you look at that team. You look at the manager. You know what I mean? Like Calvert-Lewin is an unbelievable different player since the new manager's come in. He's scoring goals for fun. You know what I mean? And like you say, it's going to be a tough one. Richarlison's Brazilian player, plays for the Brazilian national team.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to shut you up, mate.
Okay,
We'll see you at half time.
Okay.
Enjoy the game. I'm off to join Chris Gorham.
raced all the way around the stadium here, over the seats, just to try and give the players something to focus on and do what they can to create an atmosphere. The players all going down and taking the knee, as we've seen before all the Premier League matches this season. Which gives me a chance to bring in Darren Eadie, the former Norwich City winger, who's watching the game with us on BBC Radio Norfolk and on 5 Live Sports Extra this evening. Darren, we must get your views on this Norwich City team lineup. It's surprising, isn't it?
Lots of surprises. We were just saying in the studio about how influential Campbell, Pukki and Buendia were away at Goodison early on in the year when they got the win against Everton. So sometimes you find a team that you can do well against, you stick with that same formation, the same squad as best you can, but obviously big changes today.
Everton trying to put an attack together immediately, kicking from right to left as we look at it from on the gantry on the south stand of Carrow Road. It's the French player Luca Dean, forward from left back, and then a clever attempt there from Bernard, who's come into the side today just to go on the outside of the Norwich defence, but he overran it, and the Canaries have a throw in their right back position. You can hear the shouts of the players, the peeps, the blasts of the referee's whistle, very shrill coming through. Still very difficult to get used to watching inside Carrow Road, which is full every week usually. 27,000 people in for every game. Very strange to see this place so lacking in atmosphere and lacking in crowd, as Tim Krul, the Norwich goalkeeper, thumps one long, looking for the head of Dermich, who holds off the challenge of Michael Keane, but the ball has run for Holgate, the other Everton centre-back, and back it goes to Jordan Pickford. Darren, how much will getting used to will this take? I personally still can't get used to behind closed doors football. It must be different to playing.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's even weirder when you watch it at home. It doesn't seem quite so bad. It's even worse being at the ground. I think it's very kind of almost in your face a little bit. But it is very difficult for the players to be able to maintain a confidence, a belief, and a desire. That crowd. You need that crowd to lift you every single week and almost play for them as well. It's a very, very strange scenario that every player is having to get used to at the moment. But the good players deal with it, Chris, and we can see that with the Man Cities and Liverpools, how they've coped so far.
Yeah, Norwich City winning the ball back well on halfway there. No shortage of hard work in the early part of this game. It's 0-0. It's with Hernandez on the left-hand side. Now McLean just knocks one into the channel for Jamal Lewis to chase forward from full-back. Michael Keane, the Everton defender, has got it covered. Back it goes to Jordan Pickford, who's got that empty Barkley stand behind him. He clears long. Calvert-Lewin's a willing runner and will set off after it, and will actually force Ben Godfrey to take evasive action there and clear the ball into the stand. And one of those busy sort of acting ball boys will have to spring into action and run down the steps of the south stand and try and find where that ball has gone. And they all have to be wiped now as well, don't they? As we get used to the Premier League protocols with the behind closed doors football. Luca Dean, the Everton left-back, takes a throw-in from level with the edge of the Norwich penalty area. Challenge comes in from Aarons on Calvert-Lewin. The ball's gone out of play. Everton ready to take the throw-in, but in fact it's gone the other way. Throw-in to Norwich City. A lot of talk before the game about Pukki being left out of the starting lineup, but Darren, you go back to the start of the year, and Norwich have only scored 4 goals in their last 10 Premier League games, and 2 of those were penalties. So Pukki or not, you almost can't blame Daniel Farke for trying something different.
No, absolutely. I think if you're on a route as a goal scorer, they are probably someone in the team. If you've got somebody else to
Tim
I can't
Krul's
tell you how hot it is in this studio, Rob, but it's a little bit wham in here, isn't it?
It's warm, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's been a decent game so far. In terms of Norwich, they look a little bit more disciplined today. They've kept the ball well enough without creating too much. But one thing you have got is Hernandez is a willing runner in behind, and that's made a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? I think Seamus Coleman's a very good right back, and I think if you ask Seamus Coleman, he doesn't want to be against Hernandez today, and in Hernandez's mood, because he's very, very direct, loads of positivity when he's in the ball. You know what I mean? I think he needs to stay out there and like a winger. You know what I mean? Don't keep coming inside to watch it.
Almost like Iwobi's playing as a traditional right winger, he's staying right out there, making the defence think.
Just keep giving them the ball. Keep giving them the ball. And when they have given them the ball, he's the one that, with the pace and the desire to get into the box and in and around the box, and things happen.
I was just talking about with Chris Gorham during the commentary there about Duda when he's been crossing balls into the box from set pieces. How frustrating that is as a defender. You make your way all the way up the pitch to attack it. And that must play on your mind a little bit, because the next time you got one, you think he's probably not going to put a decent one in again. And then he does, right on the 6-yard box.
Yeah, Tim Closer, you mean, I think he took a corner down and he hit the first man, and you're thinking, I've got to run 60 yards down there and 60 yards back in his heat, at least try to get it in my area. But like you say, he looks as though from that, he has got the quality, but he needs to do it more regularly than what he does. When you get, I mean, it's so important, free kicks in and around the box and whatever, like the delivery of the ball is so important. When you're looking to score goals, you've got to create opportunities, put the ball in the right areas.
Yeah, I'm going to have a little chat to Jake Watson now. We haven't got any reaction from him because apparently he didn't react in the first half. To be fair to him, there wasn't much to react to, but Jake, are you there?
Yes, sorry, was I supposed to be reacting to the action?
Yeah, exactly like you would normally, Jake. But no, I do understand. It was a kind of.
And I'll respond.
It felt like a half of, I don't know, just almost Norwich feeling their way back into it again, not wanting to kind of put in a poor defensive performance as they did on Friday.
Yeah, I think it's just been very stereotypical of all the games, isn't it? To be completely honest, Darren, since the restart. I mean, I don't want to be critical of any of the football, but it has been a bit slow and a bit tough to get going. But so far, so good for Norwich, that they haven't looked weak at the back. And for me, I just heard you chaps talking about Hernandez. I agree. He's the bright spark. I mean, he's the one I think that Norwich should be looking to if they're going to try scoring this game.
And they've had some opportunities in terms of getting the ball into the box. I think Max Aaron's been around the box a couple of times. I know Hernandez, Drumic has. Is there just sometimes that ball needs to go in a little bit earlier? Because for me, there's 2 or 3 times in that half where it could have come in and it didn't. And as a centre forward, you don't know whether to attack the ball or not if you don't know it's coming in.
Yeah, I suppose as well, you've got to remember that it's Drumic today as opposed to Pukki, and these players haven't played with him before in terms of not a huge amount anyway. So Norwich have got to adapt today the way they play differently to when Pukki starts, because they're different players, aren't they? And there's different players in those wide areas, Hernandez and Rupp. Again, they don't usually play there. So I think it perhaps is a little bit disjointed. Hopefully maybe as the game goes on, they click a little bit more. And we may see some changes. I mean, Cantwell, I think, and Buendia, it's somewhat inevitable, isn't it? They come on. And fingers crossed, that has a positive impact for Norwich, because for me, Everton aren't offering a huge amount, and there's 3 points here for Norwich if they turn up in this second half and kind of take the ball by the horns.
Yeah, I was going to say, without tempting fate, you've got players there like Richarlison and Iwobi and Calvert-Lewin. They've kept them pretty quiet, haven't they? And is it now an opportunity to bring those more creative players on to create something for Norwich?
Yeah, well, there's 2 aspects, isn't it? We've seen Norwich give away goals, and we've seen them play well for 45 minutes and then just switch off for 5 minutes and the game's gone. Saw that against Southampton. We've seen it countless times. So first and foremost, the boys at the back need to continue doing exactly what they have been doing. As you say, they have been keeping Calvert-Lewin and co quiet. And that's the platform, isn't it, to allow them to play. It's hot today. They've got 5 subs, and they've got Cantwell, Pukki and Buendia on the bench. So for Norwich, it's kind of, they've got the cards today if they choose to play them, and get an hour into this game, and if it's still level, I'd kind of fancy Norwich perhaps go on and win it, because they've got those changes they can make from the bench. So if I was a Norwich fan and a Norwich manager, I'd be fairly happy with what I've seen in that first 45 minutes.
Yeah, brilliant. We'll catch up with you after the game, but I'd have a look at that mirror behind you as well. I'm not sure about that. Rob, in terms of formations, they have played slightly different today, but it does seem to be a little bit more of an attacking intent, with probably not so many attacking players in the side. You've got Hernandez that will run in behind, but actually Duda and Rupp are probably a little bit more, not quite as tricky and creative as Cantwell and Buendia.
Yeah, and ball retention needs to be a bit better as well. In certain areas, they've been giving the ball away cheaply. But it's quite funny, really, because sort of like Norwich, I feel has gone the other way, really, in terms of defending. I mean, like the amount of times Everton's got the ball in the defensive third of Norwich, it's sort of like 9 Norwich players against 5 Everton players, and like poor old Drimic is up on it. They clear the ball.
Is that a subconscious thing doing
after?
Yeah,
no, 100%. From Friday, they've sort of like gone the other way, and quite rightly so. And Jake makes a good point there. You know what I mean? They're in the game. They're in the game. Everton aren't offering enough. I think the Godfrey and Close are doing well in the central defenders. But like I say, as the game goes on, an hour goes, you've got Pookie on the bench. Yeah, I mean, you can bring Pookie on to goal scorer. Wendy or Cantwell, I probably would bring only one on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because defensively, they're doing the job out of possession today. As soon as they lose possession, they know where to go. They know where to get their position, so they're nice and compact. So defensively, they're looking really strong today. But it's taking some of the offensive play away, and someone needs to get up to Drimic quicker. But it's very difficult if it's like a 50-yard run, the ball goes in. Yeah, I mean, he's on hiding nothing because he's like 1 against 3 at the back.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to get fans' views because they're away from the stadium, get to see what we do. And I think Stuart Hodge is on the line now. Stu, are you there?
Yeah, Norwich City fan, and well, I like to do my wee bit around the local media, as you know.
So how are you seeing the game so far? I mean, I can't hear you too well, but I can just about make you out. I mean, what are you thinking about it?
I'll take you off speakers, that's a bit better.
Yes,
I think the shape is very good. I am quite pleased with how we're working as a unit, as Rob was saying, but I think the performances of individuals a wee bit disappointing. I think Rook's press has been a wee bit lazy at times. There was the shot towards the end of the half there. Hernandez, I think, has been decent. Ketty's come in, and I think we're much stronger with him there as the defensive shield. But my concern is there's still too many crosses going in the box. And I think that could be City's undoing, perhaps, in the second half. Darren was a surprise up front for a lot of people, but I know the club, because Stuart Webber said in my podcast, like, that he's got a bit of everything. So they think really highly of him. So although there was a bit of shock at the team when he started, and this, by the way, credit NCFC numbers for this. This was the first game that Timu Pukki has started on the bench in the league since he joined Norwich City. So that says how big a decision, how big a call that was. But again, Dermot's just not really involved in the game, marginalised a wee bit, and I think that's disappointing. But for the most part, quite happy with how City are looking, look quite solid. And if we can create a bit more in the second half, then yeah, we've got a chance of getting something here.
Hodgie, thanks for joining us, mate. I mean, Rob, you look at them now, there's almost like they've come out with a game plan to not concede in that first half, be nice and tight. Perhaps, by the way, the team they picked as well, a little bit better ball retention, not so many creative players in terms of going forward, but what has they've been structurally a little bit tighter in defence. Is it now a case of the manager thinking, right, we're in this game, can I show my cards? Can we chuck on a Cantwell or Buendia to do something creative to win the game? Because they've got to win it. They don't want to be getting to 85 minutes still at 0-0.
No. Like was just said there, I think an hour of the game, they cannot come out and do what they did on Friday against Southampton. Be 2-0 down after 50 minutes. You know what I mean? That's the game over. They cannot do that. So they've got to keep on doing what they did in that first half, out of possession, nice and solid. And if it means getting 8-9 people behind the ball, and like that caller just said, like, you mean stop the crosses coming in, because like cover Lewin and Rousseau, they're good in the air. Yeah. So keep it like it is for 15 minutes, and then you've got 30 minutes to bring a creative player on, your top scorer on, and then fingers crossed. Everton they don't look that much better than Norwich out there, if at all. No. You know what I mean? This is an equal game again. Like we were saying at halftime on Friday, this is a game that they could win. I'm not saying they should win, but they could. I mean, Everton, like, no, they're not offering a lot. You know what I mean? It's hot out there as well. So Norwich have got to take that positive from the game by not conceding, come out again in the second half and take it to Everton in the last 30 minutes. 15 minutes, keep it nice and tight in the game, and then have a go in the last 30 minutes.
We've got the goal machine, Jamie Curtin, with us again. Jamie, watching from home. Look, you've kind of dipped your toe into management and coaching now, Jamie, is because you kind of move away from playing, although I know you're still keen to play. Looking from that side of it now, do you watch the game differently? Do you look at Norwich now and you're almost thinking, whereas before you were thinking, right, how do I score a goal? I want to get in the box. Are you looking at it a bit more differently now, a bit more structurally in terms of what you think Norwich should do next?
Yeah, I think in general, I watch the game now, whoever I'm watching, a bit more tactically, and you like to see what managers are doing and how they set up, what they're looking to achieve, I suppose. So yeah, rather than just watch the game as a fan and want goals and entertainment, you sort of then start to look at it, of what they're trying to achieve, I suppose. And like I say, what Rob said, stay in the game. That looks what they've tried to do. They've had good possession without really creating a lot. And if they can do that, and then hopefully the subs will be key now. It's a hot day, and fresh legs are going to be key to bring on. And they've got 3 quality players to bring on who hopefully will come on and turn the game and be a bit more creative. Because I think that's the biggest thing from watching it. Both teams really haven't really created a lot. Norwich seem to break and then don't get a lot of bodies in the box. Whether that's the plan at the moment, and like I say, to stay in the game, and then hopefully as the game wears on, they can bring on better players, creative, and have a go, because they've got to win. And that's my only sort of thing looking at it is where is the goal going to come from, especially from the 11 that's out there. There's not been a lot of creativity or chances.
That's the difficulty, is as a centre forward yourself, if you're not getting those opportunities to score goals, it's easy to pick holes in the centre forward, isn't it? But they've not been creative enough to give Drummich the opportunities to score. No,
I mean, watching him, I've noticed he's quite deep as well. He does drop deep, and when they have broke, he doesn't seem the type to bust a gut to get in the box. And when crosses have gone in, there's not been hardly anyone in the box. So I think at some point you have to take that gamble, and if you are going to break and Hernandez gets it and goes down the line, you want 2-3 players in the box. If you don't get that, then it's going to be a hell of a cross to pick out one person. So yeah, watching him, he didn't get involved early on. I didn't see him touch the ball a lot, but again, that's down to how Norwich play, very possession based, and don't look to go forward too early. So it probably is frustrating as a forward playing for Norwich, because there actually isn't chance after chance coming. Sometimes you've got to create your own. But that's where I guess a good centre forward earns his corner, isn't it? He needs one chance to score a goal. Yeah, definitely. And that's, at the level at the moment, what Norwich have had probably all season is you're never going to get loads of chances. You're not a top side. You're not, one of the big boys who gets chances, most of the time. So when they do come, that is, the forward has to be a 1 in 2 at least, because you're not going to get many more. So I think that's been a big problem, as well as Pookie's done, the conversion rate or the actual chances that people get, to score goals. And if you're not going to do that, you're going to struggle to get points. Jamie, look, thanks for joining us. Hopefully catch up again soon. And I'll see you down at Leiston when you sign for me there, yeah? All right, so we'll speak to you soon. See, did he say yeah? Did he? No commitment. That's terrible, wasn't it? I've known him since I was 14. We were kids together. We grew up together. Played for the youth team together. Come pros together. Now he's binning me off, isn't he? Look, so where do we move from here? They come out the second half. Do you expect to see the same team come out, or do you think there will be changes?
Yeah, no. There's no need for changing at the moment. I don't think there's no need for changing. The only thing I would say, it's a great vantage point where we're looking at the game from. I just think sometimes they forgo the forward pass. There's times, a couple of times when Teddy had the ball in the centre circle, Duda and Rupp has come in, and they're in areas. Give it to them. Yeah. Give it to them. Because what happens now, he'll turn out, he'll go back, and then McLean's getting it at the back, and then Rupp and Duda drop back, and then all of a sudden, like I say, like Jamie's just said, they're too deep. They're too deep. Play that ball. Have confidence to play that ball. It's only a 10-yard ball into space, but they're picking it up. They turn and they're at the Everton back line.
That takes a leader on the pitch again as well, doesn't it? We've had, I think it's Jack Brennan on Facebook saying that Rob Newman would be all over Calvert-Lewin. But you'd love to play against someone like that. What would you do if you were up against a player like that?
I'd stand on his toes to start with, and I'd give him one in the ribs. But hey, listen, he's a good player. I mean, he's in the England setup now, and and I think Ben Godfrey's done really well against him. Competed in the air, not giving him no time on the ball and whatever. And like I say, he's one of the top strikers, English strikers in the Premier League now. Yeah. And like you say, before the game, it was going to be a good test. No, I think Ben Godfrey's coming out on top at the moment.
Yeah, well, good stuff. I think we're just about to kick off for the second half. We'll see you after the game.
Norwich City, we always say it's a big 45 minutes, but it is when you're bottom of the table and the games are fast running out. I'll run through the team lineups for you in just a moment, but we are underway in the second half. Norwich in yellow and green. We'll be attacking the river end of Carrow Road. Project Restart with 2 straight defeats at home. They've been beaten by Southampton. Now they've been beaten by Everton. And they've wasted a great opportunity to give themselves a chance of staying in the Premier League. 1 goal.
Well, you know, you have to give Everton credit in terms of their game management. I said it was a classic kind of away team performance, wasn't it? Nice and solid at the back, got the goal when they needed to, when they were on top, sat back and then defended the rest of the game. But again, did Norwich, I mean, should we start on the zonal marking from set pieces? Should we start there as a defender? I mean, you know, what are your thoughts?
Zonal marking's not for me, to be fair. You know what I mean? As a player, I didn't like it. As a manager, I wouldn't like incorporate zonal marking because I don't think it gives people accountability and responsibilities there. You know what I mean? You mark spaces and whatever. And listen, if you've got some 2 centre halves or three centre halves or whatever that's going to attack the ball and they're doing it, then use zonal marking. But for me, I think you lose the responsibility. The players can say, well, he's not my man, he's not my man. But whichever way, whether zone marking or marking, it was a free header in a 6-yard box.
And that makes you massively up against it. From all the defending they have done today in areas where they've been good at defending, it's just a massive low for everybody when you concede from another set piece, because they've conceded a lot from set pieces this season.
Yeah, and like you say, we said at half time, keep it clean sheet till 60, 65 minutes. You can bring your Pukki on and you can bring your Buendias on then as well. 1-0, you're bringing them on to get back in the game rather than bringing them on to win the game. You know what I mean? That's the disappointing about it. You mean because they defended as a team, as a unit in the first half. Okay, it wasn't great to watch, but they did the job. You know what I mean? And they just needed to stay in the game for 15, 20 minutes of that second half. I mean, Everton were in no great shape going forward. I thought the back four did much better today. I think they coped with Calvert-Lewin. Richarlison went off, didn't do nothing. You know what I mean? But as an attacking force, it wasn't there today. But you've got to bring your Buendias on, and as soon as he came on and Pukki came on, there was a spark and there was a lift. You know what I mean? But they were trying to get back in the game instead of winning the game, and that's disappointing.
Yeah, and we've got fan Jake Watson with us again, Jake. I mean, they seem to be managing the game pretty well up until the set piece again. And how many times have we seen it this season from zonal marking? There's been a lot of talk about zonal marking throughout football. I mean, I'm not a fan, Rob's not a fan, and I'm assuming as a fan, you're not a fan either.
No, not at all. I think Rob's bang on. It gives people almost an excuse to pass on responsibility if it goes in. And so I'm just watching the replays again now on my screen. And Michael Keane he's a big guy and he's strong in the air and he's got a free run. He's got a free run. And if you give anyone of that size a free run, you get a good ball in there, the likelihood is he's going to get something on it. And look, I'm not a fan of it. If you flip it around the other side though, Darren, Norwich had plenty of set pieces themselves, and I heard you criticise the corners coming in from Duda. You know, if you're going to give them chances from corners, then you have to go try to do the same to them. And countless times, I think it was 3 or 4 times that the corners from Norwich weren't even beating the front man. So it just feels like we've been here too many times before this season, doesn't it?
Yeah, a bit of Groundhog Day, and you're right. In attacking sense, Norwich didn't offer too much today, but like you said, they had set pieces again where if you're not creating things from open play, you rely on maybe a set piece to get yourselves back in the game or get yourselves in front. But the delivery from set pieces was poor, and there wasn't much creativity going forward either. And look, it's difficult as a manager, isn't it, to get that balance to make sure defensively they're sound, which they were for the vast part of the game today. As Rob said, they kept Richarlison quiet, they kept Calvert-Lewin pretty quiet, yet they didn't create anything going forward. Never looked like scoring a goal.
I mentioned it at half time, the front three as it was with Dermot, Hernandez and Rupp. I mean, how much did these guys play together? You know, I completely understand why Daniel's made changes today because the performance against Southampton wasn't good enough. But I'd maybe question whether they were quite the right ones. For me, Cantwell should start, even if he isn't quite on it. I think he offers so much in terms of maybe a physical attribute as well. He gets in and around people more than anyone else. I think Hernandez was positive today, but I don't think Dermot has quite done enough to say he should be playing instead of Pukki. And I mean, Adam Ida, you know, if you're gonna try something different, for me, he's the one you stick in. So I understand why the changes were made today. But as you said, as we've just seen, it just didn't quite click at all, did it, in terms of an attacking force today.
We would look a little bit too far ahead, but the quarter-final against Man United in the FA Cup on Saturday, you're looking at the performance from Friday and again today. Where do they go next? What are you expecting to see on Saturday?
Well, I'd be a little bit concerned if players were rested today with views to the to the FA Cup game. I don't think it was. I think Daniel has just tried to, just change things up a little bit and give maybe some of those players a little bit of a reminder that they've got to play and fight for those places. So I'd give the likes of Adam Ider a go. And I think the likes of Onel Hernandez, it is at the point now where you need to win games. And these players have got capabilities of maybe creating something out of nothing. So to give these guys more minutes, I think against Manchester United in the Cup. I mean, whatever happens, if I'm completely honest, I don't think it matters because games are running out thick and fast. And there was a huge opportunity, wasn't there, in the 2 games against Southampton and today against Everton. 2 teams with not a huge amount to play for, and Norwich just haven't quite done enough. So for me, you roll the dice, you try something different, and for me, that's Adam Ider and that's Onel Hernandez.
That's the frustration. Jake, thanks for joining us, mate. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers. Good one, guys. Thanks later.
Yeah, so I mean, he's kind of summed it up pretty well there. As a fan looking on from the outside, and we see the same things that we see. And Adam Ider is an obvious, I guess, a throw of the dice because he has got pace. He will run in behind. He's raw. He's got that youthful enthusiasm. You don't have any fear when you're a youngster either.
Yeah.
So I guess he is that dice that they can throw, but I'm struggling to see what Drmic has offered in the last couple of games in terms of warrant his selection in the side. I mean, maybe that's a little bit harsh because he's not had the support around him to create things. He's perhaps an 18-yard box centre forward would need service into him. We've not seen one cross go into the box of any decent quality from Norwich today. No.
He was sort of like he was very isolated up against 3-4 defenders at times because Norwich was defending so deep, like to keep a clean sheet and whatever. And I just think apart from Hernandez, Jake was right. I thought he was the bright spark today in the offensive, but the end product of Hernandez was really poor today. You know what I mean? For all his ability, his pace, his trickery and everything, I mean, we were speaking off air and you were saying, listen, when I got that yard inside the box, you just swing your right foot, left foot, whichever one. You know what I mean? It takes deflections or whatever, but you've got to have an end product. He was like positive in possession, his desire to attack the full. I mean, Seamus Coleman sort of like did better because he took him the other way in the second half, but in the first half he was defending against him and he was struggling against him, simple as. But in terms of Drmic, I think he wants balls played up to him. The quality of the balls were just more or less clearances from defending deep, and it was fighting a lone battle. But saying that, over the 2 games I've seen, I don't think he's the answer. Like I say, like Jacob just said, Adam Ider, young kid, full of enthusiasm, scored a hat-trick at Preston in the FA Cup. You know what I mean? The FA Cup is on Saturday. You know what I mean? It might be his competition. But what he will give you that pace. If you get Hernandez in the team as well, he will give you that pace as well. So if you are going to defend, you need pace on the counter-attack as well. Get Pukki up there as well. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, like a one lone striker becomes 3 against 3, 3 against 4 sometimes. But it gives you a chance as a defensive unit to push up the field.
Yeah, and Jamie Curtin's with us again. Jamie, as a centre forward, you must look at that and think, you thrive on chances. You are a centre forward that create things yourselves outside the box, but you're instinctively a fox in the box, would you say? You're potent around that area. Looking at that team in a minute, that must be difficult to look at and think, as a centre forward, where are my chances coming from?
Yeah, I think you sort of as a forward like myself, I wouldn't probably get picked in it. Because, like I say, I play in teams and always do my best work when teams are creating chances. You're on the front foot, got pace around you, crosses in the box and chances. And obviously you watch Norwich today and they don't have that. And for someone like myself, I probably would be better off not playing in it because, you're not going to get the opportunities that you want. So it was difficult today watching it. Like I say, you can't really see where the goal was coming from and conceded a poor goal. And like Rob said at half time, keep it tight for 10, 15 minutes and then bring on the more flair players and have a go. But, you concede from a corner poorly and then you're chasing the game and it becomes sort of easy then for Everton to see the game out.
Yeah, when that happens, Jimmy, we could almost see the players get deflated when Everton scored. That's the point then where the players have to take it upon themselves, don't they, to take a bit of responsibility. I said now Hernandez kind of stuck himself out on the left-hand side and didn't move for 20 minutes. He's got to go and find the ball and be creative and make things happen. And again, we talk about defensive responsibility. Attacking players have got to do that too, haven't they? Yeah, definitely. It's not a time to be hiding and getting down and worrying about things. This is where you just have to go out, and if you're stuck out wide, like yourself, you'd have probably gone and thought, well, I'm not getting the ball, so I'm going to go and get it. And you go and get it and you try and do something. And
same as a forward, you'll make runs and might have to drop deep a bit to get touches, or you'll try and threaten him behind a lot more and demand the ball being played. So yeah, you can't just blame the manager. Players have to take responsibility, and if things aren't going right, then you have to go and do something to make things happen.
Yeah, Jamie, if you was putting your manager's head on, basically, if you were going to play Dumic up front, would you sort of like change the outlook of the game and basically go back to the old standard, keeper gets the ball, push up the pitch and whatever, and let him challenge it so he becomes more effective, and then you've got more bodies around him if he's fighting it, and then like I say, you might get a knockdown and play it out wide, but they're getting the ball in the opponent's defensive third. You know what I mean? Because like Norwich seem to play and whatever, and they haven't got the equality and ability to go through the lines, out wide, cross it. So if that's not happening, would you have changed it and say, right, listen, let's go more direct. Dermot is going to play whatever. Let's get around him and get second balls.
I think so. I mean, I've said this from a while that I think the style of play is great, but if it's not working and you haven't got the quality at this level to do it, then you have to change something. And I think that's been a problem of Norwich. They've not changed it. And sometimes you just go a bit up and at them and, play a target sort of man. Don't worry about playing through thirds. Get it up in and around their box and get off flicks and knockdowns. And then at least when you do win it, you are in their third, and then you can then do your little bits and play. But I think we've, Norwich have been caught up in this nice, attractive, way of playing and passing it around, going back and sideways. But there's only certain teams that can do that, and you have to have top quality players to play that way. And I felt that when things aren't happening, you don't have to start that way, but when things aren't happening, change it. Defenders, Rob, you don't want balls in your box constantly and centre forwards knocking you and heading things. It become quite easy, I think, for Everton today. And I think a lot of defenders have found it the same. That if you play in front of them, I think defenders are happy. They don't want balls in behind, and they don't want balls in the box. They don't want balls in and around their heads and challenges. And you just have to sometimes, do that. And something does drop. And if you've got quality around it, you then get little half chances where you might nick goals. But I think it's naive to keep doing the same things and keep getting the same answers. You have to change it at some point.
Jamie, top man as always, mate. Take care. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'll speak to you both later.
See you, mate.
Yeah, I mean, again, very accurately put there in terms of just mixing things up a little bit. We haven't really seen that from Norwich throughout the season. They have this system of playing 4-3 or 4-2-3-1, and we stick with that, and it doesn't happen. We've got the full sort of screen stats here of the game, and even possession-wise, Norwich aren't having the best of it at the moment. Whereas especially in the Championship and at home, we have seen them have vast amounts of possession, but one shot on target throughout the game at home is a damning stat.
Yeah, it's not good. You know what I mean? Like I said, at the end of the day, Norwich pride themselves on possession, but 46-54, and I bet the 54 was the majority of when Everton won the game. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I say, they managed the game well, and I don't know. It's just a fear factor now. In nowadays, football and whatever, it's a long ball from the back. If everyone's pushing up into an area and whatever, it's as if people are saying you're giving the ball away. But where I'd rather give the ball away in their half, deep in their half, where we can press them, rather than trying to play out from their back all pretty, and ultimately giving it away around the halfway line, and then they're back onto you again. So, like I say, football's changed from when we played and whatever. But if we were in that situation, we're bottom of the league. Basically, we go back to basics. So you do go back to basics.
You talked about the league, and we can see here. We'll have to have a quick look at the table. I mean, it's not great viewing. Hasn't changed at all, and that's the frustrations that Norwich in these last two games. If they had have produced, I bet you've got other teams probably saying the same thing. But that's the frustrations, is it? The opportunities were there for them. They're a good couple of games actually to come back into to try and get themselves out of it.
2 wins, and they're level with Aston Villa, Bournemouth, one behind the two above them as well. And they're going to Arsenal next, who are in no great shape themselves and as well. And if they'd have got 2 positive results, even of winning a draw, you go into that game really positive as well, because there's no way. Away from home doesn't make no difference nowadays. They've got to get into a game. They still believe, but hey, 5 from 9 has gone 5 to 7 now. So it's very difficult, and I'm gutted. You know what I mean? Because like you say, the 2 games that they had were winnable. Everton, I thought, were going to give us more today, but again, they weathered the storm in the first half, got the goal, and then saw the game out really well.
Good stuff, Rob. As always, thanks for joining me. See you again Saturday for the FA Cup.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, a quarter-final against Manchester United comes this Saturday. Luckily, if it goes to penalties, we've got this man.
Fernandes for Tottenham. Oh, it's a poor penalty. And Norwich City, for the first time in 28 years, are into the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. And Norwich City, in front of an enormous travelling contingent of fans, prevail after a long, long evening. 1-1 on the night. It's Norwich who go through on penalty kicks.